does Nick Cannon really have 4 women pregnant right now? Does he really have 4 women pregnant right now? All right, so he did this interview on Angela Yee's like podcast, The Lip Service, and I'm gonna play it. Let me pull it up. I'm gonna play it. Disturbing stuff. Hold on, right quick. Let me put it on. All right, so he's on lip cervix for real. But let's see what he says.
Started my show and stuff, had told me I needed to chill out. So I was like, yo, let's try celibacy.
Right.
And that was like October.
Like January.
No, I didn't even make it to I was supposed to go. That was the whole thing. I was supposed to make it to the top of the year, but then obviously I would start going through some stuff with, just I got depressed, like with the loss of my son and stuff. So in December, and the thing is, because everybody saw I was so down, so everybody's like, let me just give him a little vagina. And that's gonna cure it all.
I know what makes him feel better.
And that's what, and I fell victim to it because I was in a weak state. So December, especially right before Christmas, I started crazy. And that's when it I broke the celibacy, but I was probably celibate for probably like a month and a half strong. I mean, you were there. I was trying to do it. Yeah. I had a new show, new energy. I was dealing with a lot.
I was there. Like, I was every day. So what you doing, Nick?
So October 22. So around the holidays, we should be expecting some.
These September, October babies on the way.
Yeah,
Let me ask you
y'all
this.
are pretty good at math. Started my show and stuff. Had told me
Man. My goodness. I need to find a clip. I thought that was the clip where he talks about how many kids he got on the way, because they actually addressed it on the show. It's just absolutely insane. You know what? Let me go on YouTube. It's absolutely insane that this man keeps procreating, keeps having kids. Nick Cannon. So they talk about him having kids. It's deep inside the show. I don't know. Oh man, I don't want to play somebody else's clip. I think this is.
You see this app right here? It's called Audible.
Oh no one's paying for this.
Just this little app.
Come on now. Let's get rid of that ad.
Maybe again.
Okay, here we go. Oh, hell no. All right, let me. All right, are we ready? Let's show this. Clip. There we go. There we go.
On Tuesday's episode of the Lip Service podcast, the 41-year-old radio host who welcomed 3 children in 2021 says he plans on breaking his personal record this year.
If you thought the numbers I put up in 2021 was...
Wait till you see what happens in 2022.
You know, there's a lot of kids last year.
Last June, Cannon had twins with Abby De La Rosa. The next month, the comedian welcomed a son, Zen, who died on December 5th after being diagnosed with brain cancer. He told the Lip Service host he was depressed following his son's death and ended his celibacy journey.
Everybody saw I was so down, so everybody's like...
I don't want to hear the excuses, but... So I think right now he has 9 kids, or he has had 9 kids by I don't know how many baby mamas, but he has about 3 or so on the way. And one thing, let's first talk about the fact that he's making light of this. He's joking about it, because I think it's kind of obvious. He knows he's going to be at the butt of the joke. He knows that people are going to come for him. So he's just trying to make it be like, okay, well, I joke about this first. It's not a big deal. I joke about this first. So don't, you guys can't come for me because I joke about this first. And he's also in interviews talked about how he doesn't want to conform to Euro quote unquote Eurocentric standards where, with nuclear families. and people have structured homes. And I've talked about it in a video. You guys need to go watch that video where I broke down why there's a lack of Black economic empowerment. And it has to do with a lot of things, right? But I really believe that it starts at the home. And it's this idea that these men, Black men, over procreate, especially when they are wealthier. But we can see in America, it's actually not just when they're wealthy, but especially when they're wealthier, they over procreate. And the whole idea of like a nuclear family is that it actually is or marriage in general was designed for wealth building, to increase your life expectancy, increase your quality of life, because marriage is a business, right? And so the issue with over procreation, which I broke down in that video, is that when your money, when your wealth is spread out in so many different families, mothers and their children, that limits your ability to build generational wealth. Because first of all, when the father dies, when the patriarch dies, the first thing that happens is everybody fights for the money. Who is getting what? And that's kind of the first problem. But also this idea that you are a father and you're not giving your children the attention that they need. And it's almost like your attention is divided in many different homes. And therefore, there's this sort of jealousy dynamic within the children where who is getting the father's attention the most. And these men, a lot of times they do it because a lot of them are narcissists, or they do it for their egos because they like people competing for their attention. And when you do that, you're actually doing a disservice to your children, because whilst that might feed your ego, which is a very superficial thing, you're actually hurting these other children. And so those relationship dynamics with the kids ends up being broken. They're not united with their siblings. They're not, they've probably grown up resenting their siblings, especially when, these mothers, a lot of times they're competing with each other, and they pass on that negative energy for different branches. One of the mothers and their child, these different branches, there becomes tension. And my point is, if you can be jealous and combative and even possibly even toxic to your own brother, what are you going to do to other people in the world? So I break down how these things develop broken people and broken families. And this, I believe, is one of the reasons why the black society globally has not elevated compared to other races. Because other races, like when you look at Jews, look how Jews were able to recover from the Holocaust. Look how Jews are known as the wealthiest people in the world, because they focus on generational wealth. They focus on the family unit, heritage, and all those things. And you even look at white people, you look at Asian people, or Chinese people, Indian people. There's a focus on the family unit, right? And that's why they go further economically than Black people. So this is a big disservice to Blackness and Black society. And I really think it's a problem, the way that he's making light of it and almost influencing it in other Black men, or legitimizing it in other Black men by laughing about it and dismissing it and acting as though, oh, well, I need a vasectomy. He did a little skit where he said, oh, he needs a vasectomy. Ha ha, it's all fun and games for the media. But these broken families that you have created, these broken children that you're bringing into the world, that is a problem for them. And that actually directly affects Black economic empowerment. And this is one of the things I've said in this video, in that previous video. Go watch it, because I really go into the history of marriage in America, slavery, and all those things. But in this one, I want to break down how ultimately, when it comes down to it, man, it's such a shame, because first of all, there's no way that you can actually be a good father. I actually don't believe you can be a good father when you build so many broken homes, because you're doing a disservice to your children. I mean, Charlemagne the God, he reacted to this and he was like, he has 4 kids in the same house, and it's difficult to give each and every one of them the attention that they need and they deserve. So what is it like when you have so many different women pregnant? Your family is scattered all over the place. You're not able to provide as a father. And provision, a lot of black men, a lot of people think provision is just financial, but no, provision is emotional provision. And emotional provision does not only come from mothers, it comes from fathers. Teaching men how to be men, teaching people how to be, or your daughters how to be loved and what to expect from a man. What are you teaching your daughter if you are scattering your seed all over the place? What influence does that have on your daughter and the kind of man she's going to choose? And what influence does that have on your son and his ability to create generational wealth? You know, they love to talk about how the men are the providers, but provision is not just economic. You know, sure, Nick Cannon may be able to afford to provide food for his children, but he's not going to be able to create generational wealth in his circumstance with this over procreation. So it's a really problematic thing. It's not something to laugh about. It's not something to take light. And the fact that he's laughing about it, I think, yes, he's trying to cover up, cover it up and just kind of like be the butt of the joke first, laugh at himself before we laugh at him, because look at the way people have, shamed Future's image, and Nick Cannon needs to be a lovable, likable person. So he needs to be able to laugh about it and make it like it's cool, but it's actually extremely problematic. And I'm thinking about these poor children that you're not going to give the necessary love to, especially as a man that is very successful, that is very busy. It's hard enough to have that work-life balance, but now you're over procreating. You're creating these broken families. You're creating fatherless children. This is problematic, and it needs to stop. It needs not to be laughed at, joked about, glorified, or ignored. It is problematic, and it's a detriment to Black society and Black economic empowerment. And one thing I had to say was, this is why we don't have generational wealth in Black America and Black. This is not just America. This happens in Nigeria. I've seen it firsthand in Nigeria. This happens in Africa. And this is why there's no Black economic empowerment. Because if you can betray or you can have a toxic relationship with your own brother because of the relationship dynamics I discussed earlier, how are you going to treat a stranger on the street? Far worse. And when you look at that, when I bring that up, you think about Black on Black violence in America. You think about the fact that in Africa, we sold our own brothers and sisters into slavery, right? What does that come from? How many polygamous men, how many broken families do you think there were in Africa, as West Africa, during the slave trade, that somebody could easily betray their half brother and sell them into slavery? How many times has that happened and not been accounted for, not even considered, because of this mentality of spreading your seed? So it's not funny. It's not something to joke about. It's actually extremely problematic. I want to play another video. This guy who he's like, how old is he? He's like 30 something. He has 33 kids. He's 35 years. No, he has 30 kids. He has a lot of kids. He has a lot of kids. And let me find this picture. He has a lot of children. It is so problematic. Man, I need an assistant. There we go. So this man has all these children. You see him on social media. He went viral a few weeks ago because he has these, like, I think there are 33 children. Not all of them made it into this photo. And he's only 35. He's only 35 or even younger. And he has all these children. So he kind of like went crazy on people on social media because people like really came for him and was like, were disrespecting him. So he got like really defensive. So let me find the video where he's ranting, about his behavior. Here we go.
First off, I'm gonna start by saying this right here. I ain't embarrassed about a goddamn thing, especially not my kids.
You should be.
So when anybody feel like that I'm embarrassed about my kids, fuck you. And like they said, I'm gonna tell you like this here. If you bitches ain't got no more money than me, I don't want to hear a motherfucking thing, you hear me? If you embarrassed, you got anything to say. If you taking care of these 30 kids, if you taking care of me, then you can contribute to what you got to say. But in the end, I don't give a fuck. None of you niggas out there bumping, none of you hoes out there talking, ain't got more money than me. So what you got to say is irrelevant to me. I don't give a fuck. But when it comes to my kids, I'm going to ride. You hear me? And for the baby mamas that's embarrassed, I'm sorry that you feel that way. But these my kids, and I don't give a fuck.
All right, enough of this nonsense. I think it's really funny where he's going on this rant. Apparently he goes on and he goes off and he acts as though we don't live in the same world that he lives in. You know, he acts like we don't know the cost of living. He acts like we don't understand generational wealth building, which he probably doesn't understand that. He doesn't sound like someone that is educated enough to even understand what generational wealth even means. But more to that, it's to me, apparently he's a truck driver. How do you actually think you're going to be able to afford 33 kids? That's millions of dollars of college tuition that you're going to have to pay. But he obviously is not going to be able to he doesn't sound like he went to college. So I don't expect him to pay for his kids' college tuition. But even just like feeding them, it's millions of dollars. So as a truck driver, you can't afford that. And no, you don't. Like, I don't know how much he thinks he makes. Like, let's be generous and say he makes $100,000 a year. That's not even enough. They say to raise one child for 18 years is $1 million, about $1 million, something thereabouts. So you're not worth $33 million. You barely have enough money to provide for yourself. So that's another problem here, right? The lack of financial literacy within the Black community, especially in these men that over procreate and do these things, because they don't understand that the money doesn't add up, and they don't understand wealth building, generational wealth building, even wealth building for yourself. So sure, he might be able to feed himself, right? And may be able to, you know, he might see a little bit of money and he spends it on a chain or something, and he thinks that's what wealth means. But he's not even thinking about retirement. He's not going to be able to retire himself. He doesn't even understand the numbers when you think about senior poverty in America, you know, and how your pension is not enough to live on. So just even providing for himself is going to be difficult, let alone providing for 33 children. And that's the problem. This lack of financial literacy and lack of financial planning is the problem. Even Nick Cannon, you know, Nick Cannon has a good amount of money, but he even talked about in his early days, you know, he did this podcast with the guys at Earn Your Leisure, but he did it on Revolt's assets over liabilities. And he talked about how he went broke. You know, when he first started getting money, started getting checks. I think Will Smith gave him like $200 and something thousand, and he went and bought I can't remember whether it was a Range Rover or a G-Wagon. He bought some expensive car that he couldn't afford, and he went broke. And he's talking about going broke a few times. And I think a lot of these times they only think about themselves and their careers, and which is fine to think about yourself, but really and truly when you think deeply about it, and the lack of Black economic empowerment, the reason why Black people are suffering today is because we have these men that actually make it out of poverty, actually become wealthy, but they don't have any sort of financial literacy. They don't have any sort of legacy planning, and they will create middle-class children. Now, when you create middle-class children, then you have the potential to create poor grandchildren. But when you actually think about making it out of poverty, look at how the white race has invested in white economic empowerment to the extent that they focus on legacy planning. They make it more affordable for white people to buy houses. They create systems to create generational wealth for the white race. And that was probably one of the smartest strategy that they thought about. But unfortunately, they did that by disservicing Black people. Now, when it comes to the white race, they're going to look at someone like Nick Cannon and they will laugh. They will laugh with you. They will la ha ha kiki, and they will go home and make sure their kids are wealthy, their families continue to have generational wealth, and the white race will continue to prevail. But black people, once this guy, he said it in a video, one comedian was like, when a black person gets rich, it's like count down till they go poor. So it's hard enough for black people to keep wealth within their own generation, let alone within themselves and in their own lifetime, let alone for them to pass it on. And so this mentality, white people will see this and they will laugh about it. They will laugh with you. They will kiki with you. They will shame you in the news. And they will, and at the end of the day, it furthers their mission for white economic empowerment. When black people continue to live in perpetual poverty, when black people invest in white businesses, like jewelry, like cars, these are all white owned businesses. European cars, luxury car, foreign cars, jewelry, diamonds. Even though they extracted the diamonds from Africa, they're the ones that are benefiting financially. But black people, instead of us to re-strategize, recoup, rethink about this stuff and actually focus on black economic empowerment, actually focus on passing on wealth to our children, but not just our children, to our communities. This is what we're thinking, over procreating. And Nick Cannon, I'm sure he'll sit here and he will probably, if I had him sitting here, he'd get in a debate with me and talk about how he, gives money to this charity and he gives money to that charity and he helps this and he helps that. But that's a problem, because what we're doing as black people is we're giving people fish instead of teaching people how to fish. And how do you teach people how to fish? How do you teach people how to fish so they can learn how to fish themselves? You do that by having a nuclear family unit, by creating healthy individuals that could go into society and create wealth from a nuclear family, create wealth and think about generations to come. So black men, stop spreading your seed frivolously. Stop impregnating anyone. And then I haven't even talked about the characters of these women that he's impregnating, not just him, but the other ones. A lot of times you will find that Mariah Carey and her children, the standard that she's raising her children is not going to be the standard that these other women are raising their children. So as much as these black men try to position it like they have this big happy family, they love all their children, but these are children that are not united in culture, in ideology, and in a lot of things. They have different home training, different cultures, so many differences, and that you cannot build a unified family based on that kind of difference in ideology, in mentality, in life views and everything. That's when you think about marriage, a very important thing when you're picking your person that you're going to spend your life with is about your value systems. Do you guys align in your values? Do you guys align in your mission? When there's a nuclear family, this family goes in one direction, decides this is how we're going to progress our family. This is our ideology. This is our belief systems. This is what we're going to do as a nuclear unit to further our mission. When it comes down to it, when it comes to families, an autocratic design for families is the best way for a family to move faster. An autocracy led by the parents. But when you already have divorce in the mix, that can offer a challenge, right? And even with white people, they do divorce and sometimes they do remarry, but they will have 2 family units max. When you see the super rich, even the Donald Trump, he still has enough. You can tell his first set of children are always going to be the ones that are the most successful. And the other set of children, the cultures are different also. But ultimately, he's still focused on generational wealth building. But with Nick Cannon, when you look at a lot of black people that do these overprocreation things, they don't even first build that family unit with a wife and kids. Nick Cannon had a wife and kids. He did start there. But this idea of having all these kids all over the place at this point, it's now like, it's going to be it's scattered. There's no one direction for your family unit. Mariah's kids are always going to be successful because Mariah has been successful. But there are examples of this where the women are not as successful, or the first wife is not as successful as Mariah. And then the children, it just creates a scattered dynamic, a toxic dynamic. And you really see the unfortunate aspects of this when the patriarch dies. So when Nick Cannon dies, this is when we're going to see what really unfolds. And it's very interesting to me how the media doesn't cover this enough, the death of the patriarch and how the families fight for the money. And if you ask me, the reason why they don't cover it is because a lot of men are the ones that are doing this, perpetuating this, and a lot of men have controlled media, you know. And also, so I think one thing that we need to start doing, shining a light on what happens when the patriarch dies. Let's see what really happens. And I mean, so much to unpack here. It's so disturbing to me. I think for me, I was just so disturbed by the way that he was laughing about it and trying to brush it off and act like it's okay. But in reality, you're bringing these children into this world in a broken family. You're not going to be able to spread your love to each of them in a way that a child needs, to have a mother and a father care for them. I'm sure you might be able to provide the finances, but you're not going to be able to be present as a father. And that is a big problem. And then you're furthering the delay of Black economic empowerment by doing this. So let's bring Black children into this world in nuclear family units. Let's bring Black children into this world to build generational wealth. Let's focus on these things because this is important. Whew. So disturbing. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, all the above. Guys, make sure you cash out me. See at the bottom transition, bottom left-hand corner, my Cash App right there at the bottom. Oh no, have I had this thing framed weirdly the whole time? I sure have. There we go. Yes, guys, let me know. Leave a comment down below. Cash App me, like, follow, subscribe, all the above. You're watching the Kenim O Show, and I'm your host, Kenim O. All right, I'll see you next time. A peace. End stream.